Chapter 11, The New House. The next weekend, Dad announced to Ben and Grandma, "I've got something I want to show you." He made them get into the car without telling them where they were going. "Can't I stay home, Dad?" Ben begged. "I want to play on the computer." "You play too much computer," Dad replied. "But the computer's fun." "Well, I want you to come for a drive," Dad said, trying not to get annoyed. "Where are we going?" Grandma asked. "It's a surprise," Dad said. Ben put his head in his lap and refused to look out the window. He waved his hands at his side like two tiny wings. Dad shook his head in frustration. Why did Ben do that? Didn't he know how silly it looked? He was about to yell at Ben to sit up properly when Grandma whispered, "Leave him, he'll come around." Dad frowned but said nothing. They drove for about 10 minutes until they got to a bushy area near the state forest. Finally, Dad stopped and Ben peeked out quite quickly and saw trees hanging over the edge of a large wooden fence. Big trees. Trees that would be great to climb. Dad and Grandma got out of the car, but Ben put his head back on his lap and refused to move. A man came over and shook Dad's hand. He had not seen Ben in the back seat. "Ready to see your new house, Jack?" he asked. Ben flinched in shock. Has Dad sold their old house without telling him? He flapped harder, rocking backwards and forwards, making little grunting sounds. The man peered in the car. Is he all right?" he asked Dad. No, he's not actually. He's sick," Dad lied. He wants to throw up? I don't think we can stay today. Perhaps I could call you and make another time to come check out the house?" "Yeah, right, mate," the man said, trying hard not to stare at Ben too much. Dad and Grandma got back in the car as quickly as they could, and they drove away very fast. Dad stopped the car as soon as they got out of sight from the man. "What was that all about?" Dad turned around and yelled at Ben. Ben made a silly noise even louder, with his head still on his lap. "It was too much of a surprise, Jack," Grandma said softly. "Ben needs things explained to him." "I know it was a lovely thing to do, but give Ben a chance to understand what is happening." Dad stared out the window with his arms crossed and his mouth in a hard line. "It's not our house anyway," he snapped. "I thought you'd like to look at it. Think about it." "I know, Jack, but now Ben has to know it too." She got out of the car and got next to Ben. "Ben," Grandma said gently. "Ben, can you hear me?" Ben stopped whimpering and nodded his head. "Dad says that he hasn't bought that house. He just wants us to look at it. If we drive past the house again, would you look out the window? We won't stop. We'll just drive past so you can see it. Would that be okay?" Ben sniffed and nodded again. He sat up and wiped his eyes. Dad didn't say a word as he started up the car. He didn't say a word as he drove past the house once again. "See, Ben, it's got a pool," Grandma said, "with a slippery dip on it." "Wow. That would be good, wouldn't it?" "Maybe," Ben agreed, "but I still like our house better." "Sure you do," Grandma said. Dad didn't say a word all the way home, but when they pulled into the driveway, he managed to say, "Would it be okay if we drove past the house again tomorrow and stopped the car this time? Just to look, not to get out?" "Okay," Ben said happily as he jumped out of the car. "I'm going to play the computer now." Dad and Grandma looked at each other. "Don't try and surprise him, Jack," Grandma said. "He needs to know what is going to happen, or he gets confused and frightened." Dad nodded. "It's hard for me to remember that. I used to love surprises when I was his age." "Yes, I know," Grandma smiled, "but I also seem to remember that you were hopeless at math. In some ways, it's for the best that he's different from you." "Yeah," Dad agreed with a big sigh, "but it's still so hard to know what to do, Mom. He doesn't act like the other kids. But be thankful for his good points. He's wonderfully clever in his own way. Just don't forget that." Dad nodded, then said, "Maybe I'll go inside and let him teach me how to use my new computer." "Good idea," Grandma said with a grin. "You do that."